Welcome back, everybody. Let's dive in here and take a look at our quick little overview presentation on writing the explanatory essay. All right. We always have to remember to keep in the front of our minds our purpose in writing. As the title of the essay suggests, we're to explain an idea that is unfamiliar to the reader. So assume that the reader knows nothing about the idea, concept that you're working with. We want to use the same article as the abstract, which is good. So we have a little bit of a head start with our pre-writing. Okay, and keep the focus on the idea, the concept of the article. Remember that the abstract was like a summary of the article, right? We touched upon the main idea there, but the focus of the explanatory essay is going to be that concept itself. So the abstract is one assignment, and the explanatory essay is a different assignment. Remember, the audience is college level audience. That's what we want to write for. Please remember that errors in word choice, grammar mechanics, those vowels, point of view, really detract from the reader's experience, and that message that you're trying to communicate, right, it becomes lost because the more times that the reader has to stop and look at the writing and try to figure out, then that's going to slow down the transmission of that idea, which we don't want to happen. Please do not copy from the article. You want to paraphrase it, sure, yeah, that's great, but we don't want to copy from the article into your paper, so no copying whatsoever. And please be aware of the word count. This is an essay, so 550 to 650, that's the word count. You can go a little below and a little bit over, but otherwise, keep it within that limit. We've seen this before and we'll continue to see it. Writing is a process. Too often, let me grab a pen here. There we go. Too often when people sit down to pre-write, right, they don't like doing this. We don't like to think. I've seen way too many writers, when they sit down to write a paper, they do this. They sit down over here at the computer and just start to hammer it out. Don't do that. That is not a recipe for success. That's what you do when you've completed the writing process. You sit down at the computer, type it up, and then worry about that. So please, please, please be careful. Remember that writing is a process. First thing you need to do is gather your resources. The article that you're writing, right, with, that you've already annotated, and your abstract. So we've got a head start on the explanatory essay, which is great. You want to get those resources in front of you. Okay, what we see here is what is generally not seen. This is pre-writing. Briefly here, you'll note what I jotted down to illustrate here, 1 hour. The way that I like to work in chunks. I will work for an hour, and then I'll get up, take a break, walk the dog, get my energy back, and sit down and then write for another hour. That's the way that I like to write. I don't like to sit down and try to write for 4 or 5 hours straight. That's just a recipe for disaster. First thing you want to do is ask yourself important questions to answer for the reader. So that's what you see up here at the top. I just jotted down some different questions that I know I'm going to have to address. For example, what is blank? How does blank work? Who uses blank? Why have blank? You might use some of those to get started. You might come up with your own questions to address, and that's great. The answers, right, so here's my questions, and then based upon my questions, I get answers. And these answers will generate definition to be used in the paper as well as examples. At this point, once you've got those questions addressed, work towards a rough thesis statement. We're calling it rough because later we know we're going to polish it up. So what should happen with our thesis statement? The thesis statement should alert the reader to the content of the essay. It should be found at the end of the introduction. No slang, no cliches. Remember what those cliches are from earlier lectures? And slang, that's part of the bottom of the staircase with word choice. The thesis statement should be a statement, not a question. And it should contain how many clearly stated topics? 3. That's what we're working with, the rule of 3 to give us a 3-point thesis. So here, more of my pre-writing, just going in, right? And then here I have my rough thesis statement. You might have noticed that I've abbreviated competency-based education in my pre-writing because that's just too much to write. You might be saying, we're not supposed to use abbreviations, are we, Mr. K? This is pre-writing. I know that later, everything is going to be fixed. So check your thesis for those clearly stated topics of discussion. You're going to have 3. Each one is turned into a topic sentence for a body paragraph. So what do I have here? Here I have my topic sentences for my body paragraphs. And this is what we mean by the rule of 3. The thesis has 3 topics of discussion, right? Which gives us 3 topic sentences for the 3 body paragraphs. That's the rule of 3. Next, before you begin writing, before you do your rough draft, do an outline. Way too many people skip this step. Outlines are a shopping list. It's also a good way to check and make sure that your paragraphs are going to work. So what do I have first? I first have my topic sentences from the previous page. Now, rule of 3. Underneath each one, what do I have to have? I have to have at least 3 talking points or examples. If you only have 1 or 2 on your outline, that's letting you know that that paragraph is not going to work and you need to stop and fix it at that point. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, bingo, everything's good. At this point, the timer went off, 1 hour. So for me, was I able to go through and even begin writing the rough draft? No, I was not, and that's okay. Take a break, walk the dog, come back, you'll find that you've got your energy back, you feel refreshed, and then you're ready to keep on moving through the writing process. So next I sat down and drafted out the paper, took another break, then I started to go through the process of revision. And what I love about this image here, you'll see that it has arrows working in a cycle. The more times you go through and you check your paper, the better it's going to get. Check it for content. Make sure you're following the guidelines, grammar, mechanics, word choice, point of view, all that stuff. Then, once you think your paper is great, type it up. Then, have an outside reader take a look at it. Why? Because you're going to be so into your paper at this point, you might not see an error or 2, right? Some might have a paragraph that you think is good, but the outside reader might have some questions about. So once you get that input from the outside reader, and just in case you're curious, I'm always happy to take a look at papers. You could copy paste it into an email, send it to me from your student email account. And please do that so we have enough time so I can take a look at it, make comments. So you can take those comments and then pull them in and make a correction. Happy to do that. So, right, and then you go back again and polish it and polish it and polish it. So in the next lecture, what we'll see is the finished essay. And way too many people think that you can sit down and just write a paper from scratch at the computer, and it doesn't work that way. Please remember to follow the writing process. So in the next lecture, we'll go ahead and take a look at the final draft.